Yes, I guess we are live. Let me quickly check on YouTube. Yes, we are live. Hi everyone, welcome to our new series on AI agents with AI agent and software testing, and we will be discussing a lot of things today. But before we start, a quick check. Can anybody let me know? Am I audible properly? Let me know in the chat. A quick yes or no. Okay. Hi Nadia. Hi Ayush. Hi Yes. So seems everything is fine. We'll wait for 1 minute. Let people join, and then we'll start. So we have Prince, Jyoti, Hemant, Ritesh. Thank you guys for joining. Just give us a couple of minutes, and we'll start the session. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So, guys, today's session is very interesting and very important. As you all know, that we have AI all around the world, and it is important for you to understand how AI is changing the complete software testing domain, right? So, before we start, a quick check: how many of you are aware of the AI agents? AI agents normally and AI agents in software testing. Let me know your thought in the live chat. Abhishek Mishra. No, it's a live session, Abhishek. So we will be having a brief introduction and demo. If you have any questions related to the session, feel free to ask, but it's completely live. So we have expert with us who will be joining us. Hi Uma, hi Sushmita. Thanks for joining. Okay, so Ayush says I have some idea about agents and agents in software testing. Okay, great, Ayush. Okay, I also want to check how you are using AI in your day-to-day activities, because when it comes to AI, we also have a lot of chaos, right? So many people are even confused what to use, what not to use. So it would be good to understand about your requirement, your current challenges. We also have a few people who have no idea about AI agents. Okay, that's good. Don't worry, Murli, we will be discussing in detail today. Okay, now coming back to session, this will be for 45 minutes, and the last 15 minutes is for Q&A. So if you have any questions related to the topic, you can park your question in the chat window. We will be taking all the questions at the end. And if you have any other questions which is not related to agents, we will take it maybe in the some other live. But if it is related to Gen AI, AI in testing, AI agents, or TestRigor, please let us know. We will be picking at the end. No idea on AI agents. Okay. Generate scenarios I do from AI. Okay, Nirmal. See, prompt engineering is totally different, okay, but how you can leverage end-to-end solutions totally different. So we are going to discuss that as well. So we have an expert with us. His name is Bruno. He's solution engineer manager from TestRigor, and I would like to invite him, who will be giving us brief introduction AI agents in software testing. So let me put him on stage. Hi, Bruno.
Hello.
Yeah, how are you doing?
I am doing very good. Thanks for asking, Mukesh. Is my audio coming through well?
Yes, yes, all is set.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So, guys, we will be starting in a few minutes. But Bruno, let me give you some idea about the audience. If we are live on YouTube and many people are completely new to AI, okay, so consider that people don't know about Gen AI, people don't know about agents. Maybe we start from the scratch. That would be better. And
Sure.
what challenges we can solve through AI. So people also have the scarcity mindset that AI is taking the job, but if we can give them a different perspective, that AI is actually helping. It's reducing the manpower. It's improving the efficiency. So they will have a different mindset and they will have a different perspective.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So we can start now. Guys, please let us know your thoughts in the chat section. We'll pick each and every question at the end. But yeah, Bruno, we'd love to hear from you about AI agents and software testing.
Yeah. Well, so as Mukesh mentioned, the whole point of AI agents is not to replace you. It's to assist in basically releasing faster. Find these scenarios that we need to test, get them consistent, and then also find additional ones. So yeah, you don't have to be concerned necessarily about AI agents, because once again, these are tools that are going to be helping us.
True.
Yeah. So with that being said, let me run through some slides.
Yeah.
So let's see. Are you already able to see my screen over here?
Yes.
There
It's
we are.
black.
Beautiful. Okay. So just a little bit about myself. As Mukesh mentioned, I'm a solutions engineer manager with TestRigor. I've been in the automation space for over 6 years. I'm based out of Boston. I enjoy woodworking, soccer, music, beef jerky, candlepin bowling, billiards, avid animal lover as well. I have a cat rolling around somewhere. And I am super passionate about helping teams solve, testing challenges. So that's really how I got here. And, obviously the main focus and the main problem is test creation. That's typically the biggest issue, is test creation along with test maintenance. It's just too
True.
time consuming. So, with that, this slide is what we hear from a lot of our customers, or people that are planning to be our customers. They, have so many different issues, slow QA releases, flaky tests, a bunch of different things here that comes up very, very consistently. And we really pride ourselves in being able to help resolve a majority of this. And we do this, once again, using our AI agents. And the first thing I'm showing you here is what Selenium looks like. And obviously, I'm sure many of you are very, very well aware of Selenium. Selenium is a great tool. However, it is very complex. And anytime maintenance needs to occur, that's where you really feel the pain. That's the problem. So, that if anything changes in here, any of the implementation details, locations, anything changes, this no longer holds true. However, with TestRigor, we don't have to be concerned about that, because once again, we're not running tests based on your implementation details. We're taking it and we're using that plain English along with the AI agents to understand what we need to do and get through there. So as you can see, the left-hand side is what Selenium would look like in order to do the same thing that TestRigor is doing here on the right-hand side. So 2 lines from TestRigor, many lines in Selenium. So once again, maintenance is so much stronger and so much easier through TestRigor. We've actually asked a lot of our customers and prospects, where exactly do they do they hit a limit? And typically they say around 300 tests is where they have a lot of trouble maintaining things. And once again, with that, you end up releasing bugs into production. Everybody's aware of the blue screens. I don't want to talk about anything specific, but the entire airplane industry almost stopped.
Yeah.
Well, actually it did stop earlier in the year, and it was because of something like this. What TestRigor is trying to really help with is really help with that red line. The number of test cases that you're able to create and maintain over time is much, much higher, just due to the fact that, once again, we're using plain English. We're not relying on all of the implementation details, and really anybody can use TestRigor. I don't have my t-shirt on, but it says, if you can read this, you can automate. So with that, we really pride ourselves in being able to help people along. This is actually a great story here. Keith Poe, VP of Engineering at IDT. they were basically treading water at about 33% automation, and he had already put a lot of effort and a lot of manpower into trying to get their automation where it needed to be, and he was unable to do it. He kept on throwing more people and more money at it, couldn't do it. He actually started using TestRigor, and as you can see now, they're at 91% automation, and
Nice.
from that, they're doing so well right now. So there's many other stories like this, but Keith is a great guy. He travels with us to conferences sometimes. He's an amazing guy. All right.
This is
So
all without coding, right? Yeah.
yeah. So when it comes down to why companies are really choosing TestRigor, this right here is a general list of kind of the main value props. So obviously no coding. That's one of the big things that we really try to push, is giving manual testers the ability to create test automation without relying on coding or relying on the developers to create the code for them. Very limited test maintenance. So once again, if something changes in the UI, we don't necessarily care where that element lives on the UI, as long as it's still there. And once again, we don't care about the implementation details or anything like that. Additionally, we support really all of your testing types: web, mobile, native apps, as well as desktop testing as well. We also have cross-browser support with various device farm integrations. We have pre-populated scripts for both Bash and PowerShell for CI/CD integrations, as well as other integrations: TestRail, Jira, Azure DevOps, just to name a few. Inside of TestRigor, there's 5 different ways of leveraging test creation. So the first one is just being able to create the test cases yourself, writing them out in English, which we'll be doing in a little bit here. Additionally, we have the ability to do a record and playback using a Chrome extension, which I will also show.
Okay.
Then number 3, which probably should be number 1 for this specific meeting, but the Gen AI. So obviously being able to leverage AI to create test cases for us. And once again, keep in mind, AI is not going to do everything for you, so you don't have to be concerned there. But what it is going to do is it's going to help up-level you and get you to that next level, so you can create tests faster. Even if some manipulation needs to be done, at least it's created. So keep that in mind. We then also have live mode. Live mode gives us the ability to open up a VM and interact with our application live, understanding how TestRigor is going to see it and creating our test case. And then the last option there is importing them. And obviously that comes up quite regularly because people aren't necessarily new to automation. They've been doing it for a little while. So we need to give people the ability to import them. So with it, as you can see, we do support integration with TestRail, X-Ray, Zephyr, Azure DevOps. Question just came through: does it support accessibility testing or accessibility automation? That actually I'm going to have to get back to, but accessibility testing is supported by TestRigor, so we could validate all sorts of different accessibility needs.
Yeah.
All right.
And Bruno, last slide, I could not see API. Does it support API automation too?
Oh, it does actually. My apologies. I did not look at this close enough, but yes, it does support API testing as well. Okay. Yeah, and quite a few other types of testing, database integrations, and I'll probably show that in the documentation in a couple of slides.
What about SAP systems if we want to connect to?
Sorry, one more time.
SAP automation, like we have SAP machine.
Yeah. So once again, we don't necessarily care what the application is. It's more about being able to get to it. So with SAP, like other applications like that, we just need to be able to get to it. And once we can get to it, then we can test it. So typically SAP is its own, its own instance. So as long as we can get to that instance, we can automate it. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Thank you for asking. All right. So then most of you are kind of familiar with what the legacy tools do out there. They're providing some slow test creation. Test maintenance is really eating away at that bandwidth that you're able to release. And then your broken SDLC processes. So what we're trying to do here at TestRigor is really speed up all of this. So once again, you're only maintaining tests about 2 hours a week instead of having to create brand new ones. You're reclaiming about 35% of your dev time due to the fact that we're kind of re-altering the way this SDLC is working. And you could see 2,000 automated tests per year for a manual tester to be creating, which is an impressive number. So really the old way is spec, code, QA, redo any errors, continue on testing, redo again, testing again, and then eventually you find success. However, we're trying to speed up that whole process. So basically, once you code it, you're successful at that point, because once again, it's not going to change inside of TestRigor.
Great.
All right. So you can see right there, 35% of that engineering time is being reclaimed. And a lot of the customers that we are already helping with this are available here on the slide. I'm not going to talk through the whole thing. I just like to show it. So we do work with people across all of the different verticals. And then once again, back to this slide, because I feel like this is really important to get people's frustrations going, because you want to see how we're going to resolve all of these. So right before we get into the actual product, that was one additional view there. All right. So with that being said, let's get to TestRigor.
So Bruno, we just touched upon Selenium, right? What about other framework? Like similar story will remain whether we pick Playwright, whether we pick Cypress or any test automation tool which exists in the market. So the concept is same, right?
That is exactly the case, because once again, all of those are relying heavily on those implementation details, which we are not.
Okay.
Yeah, great question. All right, so with the UI, I'm not going to go fully through the UI here, but as you can see, once again, there are multiple ways of testing. So desktop, web, mobile web, native, and hybrid mobile, as well as native desktop. And given whatever you specify here, we will change some of the settings down below. Like, you might not have operating system if we're picking mobile, because we're going to switch that to, well, it's still operating system, but it would be OS for your phone, and go from there. So once again, we support a whole bunch of different testing types. But for today, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to jump into a suite that I have created here against Best Buy. Best Buy, if any of you out there don't know, it's an electronics website, or it's actually a store, but you can buy all sorts of stuff on their website, from iPads and iPhones to washers and dryers to TVs and what have you. So within the UI here, once we get into TestRigor, you can see that there's a whole bunch of test cases in here. These test cases, if I open one up, what we'll be able to start seeing here are screenshots of the flow and some other elements, like, who ran it, when did it run. Some of the information over here would be like the quick edit, which basically lets us see what this test case looks like. This I actually leveraged the AI to create. So the reason I know that is because of the way that this all looks. So let me give you a breakdown of, once again, kind of how we go about creating a test case. So if I know what I want to do, I can just come up to add test case, and I can start typing out what I want to do. So I could just say, well, I know I want to click menu. After I click menu, what do I want to do? So then maybe at that point, I want to click phones. And this is, once again, just kind of roughly going off some of the typical things in a test case against Best Buy. But once again, we'll just keep it very, very basic like this. Let's say this is called the phone search. And this description is pretty important if you are looking to leverage AI. For this moment, I'm not using AI. I'm just giving it a very, very basic test case. But you'll see here, I just do add and run, and it's going to go ahead and start executing. Something to keep in mind is that, so TestRigor is a SaaS service. We are hosting this whole thing, and with it, we're maintaining all the infrastructure, so you don't have to worry about spinning up new VMs and configuring your Selenium grid and all of that stuff. We're taking care of all of that. So with that being said, once again, this test case is running right now. We could actually go in and see what's going on, and you can see it's already gotten from point 1. So this is our load page to our first step here, which is click menu. Our next step here, which is our load page. And then our next one here, I just typed in phones, and it found cell phones, which is totally fine. But then I didn't really do anything after that. So it basically clicked that, and that's the test. So obviously I should have added additional steps there, but we'll do that in the recording.
Okay.
All right. So as I mentioned, many ways of creating test cases. That was just the manual one. I know this whole talk here is about the AI agents.
Yeah.
So let's get into the AI agents.
And guys, we are taking here the e-commerce application, which is very dynamic in nature, because if you take some static applications, we don't find much issues. But here, the elements are changing, the products are changing. So TestRigor will fit even for dynamic applications. Now, you see, just by writing plain English, you are able to automate. Now, if imagine if the 3 steps itself you have to automate, you have to understand the programming language, you have to understand which framework to use. Again, you have to take care how exactly you will be running. Running locally is fine, but the moment you have to do the real execution, you need a virtual machine, right? You need to bear the infrastructure cost. Here is everything is happening on the cloud. So we'll talk about this also in detail, but just by writing plain English, you can start automating your applications.
Yes, and once again, the plain English part of that can be leveraged in multiple places. So once again, at the top there, add test case. So we could just put our information in here. We could also just do it with a description. So if I want to say, let's go to the description, shop for an iPhone, and compare prices. So that's all I'm giving it. I'm not giving it any additional detail. And what we have here is the ability to generate an actual test using AI. So what that means, it's just going to jump in and start creating a test and finding its way through the application with its limited knowledge of the application. Once again, just being an AI agent. There's also this generate sample test using AI. I kind of like to show this just to show the format, because once again, we are looking for certain keywords like search or check, compare, validate. However, repeat or browse, those aren't TestRigor syntax words. Even though TestRigor technically knows how to browse, it's just normally we use the term go to URL. But in a case like this, I can still force TestRigor to get past this. And by doing so, it will then leverage AI to create reusable rules from some of these actions. And reusable rules, which I haven't explained yet, are basically just functions, if you think about them. Something that's going to be repeatable that you're going to need to use on many tests throughout your application.
Just like login, logout, search
exactly.
functionality.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm actually going to delete all of that. I'm just going to generate the actual test. So I'm going to let that start running. So talking about those built-in rules, I do want to just talk specifically about our documentation really quick, because oftentimes people think, oh, this is a new tool, I'm going to have to learn a whole new language. You don't. Once again, it's very, very simple. Everything is listed here under basic commands. And the basic commands really shows you everything that we're capable of doing, along with examples of them. So you could see things like click the middle of the screen. So we can use locational references. You could tell us to click a third button on the screen, click the third add to cart button. Lots of functionality just in some basic commands. We also have some really cool functionality generating, because oftentimes when filling out forms, you might need to generate an email address or enter in a name or a phone number. We have generate, which gives you the ability to do just that: generate a unique email, a unique name, generate something from a template. And the template is really, really nice because you can tell TestRigor how you want it formatted, and then we will create something for you in that same format. So once again, the generate functionality inside of TestRigor is hugely powerful. But once again, the main reason I came into the documentation in the first place was to show you the reusable rules, or the concept of the reusable rules, but also mentioning specifically the built-in reusable rules, because Mikesh mentioned like a login. And as you can see, login is one of our built-in reusable rules. So if you provide us the credentials, you could just create a test case that you just type in login, and it will go ahead and attempt the login. And that login could be your typical put in a username, put in a password, click login. It could be enter the username, click next, enter a password, click next. So it's going to use that AI agent to understand what your login process is and change it as necessary. So once again, there are some built-in reusable rules. There's even this other really cool one here, login with email OTP. So oftentimes we get the request of how could we get through a two-factor authentication or a one-time password situation. We have all of that handled already. So no concerns there. Additionally, a lot of people use Salesforce. So recently we've released a whole bunch of built-in reusable rules specifically for Salesforce as well.
Nice.
So, and then once again, I forgot to mention it earlier, or I forgot to show it on the slide, but you could actually see down here API testing.
Yeah.
So we definitely do support the API testing, as well as visual testing. A lot of the typical things like loops and what have you, but then we also support phone calls as well as SMS. So, if you do have a Twilio or a Telnex account, then we could leverage those phone numbers to actually do some of that additional testing. There's even an option in here to do capture resolution. That is one that really blows people's minds sometimes. So once again, I just kind of like talking about some of those key things because people find major value in that.
So when it comes to test coverage, like generally we keep these kind of scenarios in CB category, cannot be automated. So
Exactly.
with this, we can actually do the email validation, OTP validations. This is all will be bypassed, or you will actually do email like OTP verification behind the scene.
We'll actually do it, not necessarily behind the scene, but what will happen is it will be partially behind the scenes, but then in a tab. So inside of TestRigor, you can have it open a new tab, go to that tab, perform additional actions. So something with like an email, we would actually be able to show you that email on screen, so you could actually see it loading, so you could actually see what's being populated
Nice.
in there. Yeah. And then we also have the ability to extract data from emails as well. So not only are we, let's see here, enter stored value. Sorry, not that. Well, yeah, so there's a bunch of different ways where when we are interacting with something, we can then save it as
Okay.
as a code to then use it later
Okay.
on. Yep. So, all right.
Interesting.
So yeah, so then with those two test cases, once again, one I created manually by just typing in some information, and then the other one we let AI basically take the reins and run with it. So all I told it was shop for an iPhone and compare prices. So it basically created all of these test steps to do just that. And once again, a human is going to need to go through this and validate that all of the steps are done to your liking. So once again, that's another place where you don't have to be concerned about your job going out the window because AI is helping. Because once again, AI, if you think about it, it's hugely powerful, but it's also a little bit, I don't want to say dumb, but so you definitely still need to be here and validate things that it's doing. So the other nice thing is, once again, I've given it so very little information. Search for iPhone, and with it, it's gone through. So it did a search for an iPhone. It entered something into that search. It then typed enter, so that's hitting the enter key. And then from there, it does a validation that something is appearing on the screen, and then enter one into iPhone Max Pro. So that's basically us telling it to check this box over here. And then you could actually see that it did create a reusable rule called check the prices listed for each selected product. So once again, I didn't do that. That was AI. So what's really nice is, once again, I could go into my reusable rules to see exactly what AI did when it tried to perform that specific action. So in this case, validate the availability information. That's actually a different one. Well, with any of these AI-based rules, I could just uncheck it and then see what it did for those steps. This is really nice because I can understand now, did AI do it correctly? And if
Correct.
it did, yeah. And if it did do it correctly, great. That means I can turn it off because we know it did it well. So by turning it off, we speed up the testing process now. If I if it didn't do it well, then I would still look at these steps, probably manipulate them myself, and then go from there. But AI, once again, is a great tool for building and helping you maintain, but we don't want you to necessarily leave it on all the time because it's you don't need it processing all the time.
True.
So yeah. So let's see here. So yeah, that's just one of those things that it's really really nice to have and understand really what's being done behind the scenes. And then once again, if I do go into this quick edit, you can see search for iPhone, that's in our proper syntax. Even the check if page contains is also in our syntax, but this check the prices listed is not. But if I press my command key, you can see this becomes a link that brings me to my reusable rule, specifically filtered to that one. So then I can actually see, okay, so these are the 4 steps that it did when checking the prices listed. So once again, I can determine at this point whether or not I like this or if I want to make some edits or what have you. Let's see. Sorry, I've been missing some of these questions, but
No, we can take these questions at the end.
okay, cool. But the CI/CD integration, very, very seamless, very easy. It's really just documented. So we'll definitely touch on that a little bit later.
So,
Okay.
Varun, one question here, like,
Yes.
is there any option like the moment I inject my application and I want TestRigor to automatically identify the common use cases, end-to-end flows, instead of writing or giving the intention, it can automatically detect and generate the test cases and execute?
Um, Kinda. So when building out a test case, so I'll do this. I'll do a new one right now for you. All right. So we're going to go to Best Buy again. I'm not going to give a username or password because I don't need it. But down here, number of test cases to generate using AI. So I'm going to set this to 5. And then from here, I can give a description of the application to help assist AI in its test creation. I could also just put in a specific thing that I want to test here. So once again, if I use that same line from earlier, look for an iPhone or what have you, I could
Mhm.
do that. In this case, I'll do, let's see, an electronics website where a user can find and I don't want to say purchase because I don't want it to try to go through that. Find and compare prices. Geez, sorry. Of let's say a 70-inch TV. It's way too big, but that's fine.
Okay.
So I'm going to create my suite. When I create my suite, you can see it's basically going to give me 5 options for tests that once again AI created. And
Nice.
then it's once again up to me to decide whether or not I really, really like these test cases and I want to run them, or if I don't like them and I want to regenerate them possibly. So test the ability to view details, great. Validate the functionality of sorting, sure. Verify the ability to filter, okay. Compare prices, search. These all look like valid ones, but I'm just going to click regenerate on one of them so you can see how it regenerates that. Pretty straightforward. Or let's say I don't like it, I can just remove it. Or if I click edit, I could change the specific text here. So for example, that backslash, I'm going to change to
Mm.
that. So from there,
Correct.
I'm just going to do add and build. So once again, I didn't really put much effort into that except giving a very, very poor description.
Yeah.
And as you can see, these are already running, opening first page, and you can see the yellow over there
And
representing
right
that.
now they're running on Chrome and Ubuntu. But if I have to run across multiple browsers, multiple OSs,
Yep, multiple browsers and multiple OSs are supported. Multiple browsers, we would just come over here and we would just change it to whatever operating system we want and whichever browser we
mm,
need in that given operating system. So if I did switch to OS X, I would have Safari available. If I switched to Windows, I'd have Edge available.
awesome.
Yeah. And then for those of you that are probably wondering about some of the other stuff on this page, I mentioned earlier that we do have integration with some device farm providers. So if you
Yeah.
did have licensing for device farms, we could integrate with Browser Stack, Lambda Test, and Sauce Labs.
Awesome.
Yep. Since we're in here, I might as well show a couple additional things like the AI specific portion. So we could turn off Vision AI if you don't want to use it. I don't know why you would, but you can. And then there is the option here to auto adapt test cases and auto adapt reusable rules using AI. So that's once again just using AI just as a tool to kind of help get us past any hiccups that might be out there. There was also that ask about the accessibility. I don't know if it was accessibility testing per se, but
Yes,
that
yes.
is under error detection. So we could turn on that functionality to specifically handle that. And since I'm here, CI/CD integration is once again just right there. It's a bunch of pre-populated lists, pre-populated scripts that perform a whole bunch of actions. Pretty much everything that's doable in TestRigor can be done via these API calls. You could run tests via label, so that's something that I really haven't touched on yet, but we can label our test cases with anything that you need over here. So for example, oftentimes we'll have customers put smoke test in here or regression test. So then you
Yeah.
could run all of your test cases by label. So you don't have to go through and filter things out, even though you can. There's a filter option up here. So you could just do a filter and then you could select multiple and then run multiple test cases or, whatever you need to do there. All right. So with that, let's see here. All right. So that's how we create our test suite and how we leverage AI to start creating test cases. Once again, though, we are going to have to go in and validate that what it's doing, we wanted it to do, and what have you. But that right there is just kind of showing how easy it is to create that. Additionally, we could generate test cases based on a feature description. So this is once again taking that same feature description that I used at the very beginning.
Yes.
So you can see right here, electronics website, find a 70-inch TV. I can basically just change this moment in time and then generate another handful of test cases based on a different feature description. And then I could also, right here, images of a diagram. So if you have a flow chart of the workflow that you're trying to automate, we could you could basically load in that and go
Nice.
through it that way.
What about Figma screens? Like if we have Figma screens ready, can we directly use the Figma screens?
I That's actually a great question. I'm not 100% certain, but once again, if it is a visual representation of that flow, I believe you
Yes.
could. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. So once again, so we've created some test cases, and you can see right here that Best Buy suite that I created is still technically running one of my test cases. And some of these looked like they were successful, but I don't know if that's not fully successful. So I don't even want to talk too much about that. But once again, that's a great example of why you can't rely on AI.
Yes.
So we do always want a human validating things. Yes. So AJ's question, does this support complex scenario automation as this is a record and playback tool? Yes, it does. So far, all I've been showing you is very, very basic ones. But what we could also do is stitch things together. So we have this before test suite hook and after test suite hook. Think of these as your build up and tear down scripts. So if you did need to create a bunch of variables or spin up a certain type of environment or make a bunch of API calls or something like that before we actually get into the test, you could do that in the before test suite hook and then run all of your test cases. And then all of the variables and whatnot that are being created will be used across all of your test cases. And then from there, you use that after test suite hook to basically return things back to normal before your next testing.
So Ajay, you can use this is just for demo. We are showing the few demos, but you take any application, basically you have multiple options. So I guess you missed the starting slide. You can write either in plain English, you can either give the description of what exactly you want to test, or you just give the intention about the application. It can automatically rediscover the scenarios and can automate. So if you can verbally tell what exactly you want to perform, whether it's a type, click, drag and drop, upload files, anything, whether it's a generic scenario, complex scenarios, it can do without even a single line of code.
Yep. Yeah. And Sanaya's question, does it support parameterization? It does. I haven't gone through any of that yet, but yes, it definitely does. I actually do have a test case that I could show you, but before I get into that, let me show a couple of other things. So one of those options is live mode. So you can see in here, I have my Chrome Ubuntu one. I have a Best Buy data set that's already set up in here. And I do have some different locations where I was basically setting my data to be from. But what we're doing here is we're going to spin up that live mode instance. And from here, I'll be able to then create a test case against that live site. We'll give that a couple of seconds to get going because once again, this is spinning up a VM specifically for our use. But at the same time, I have the Best Buy website open in one of my other tabs. And we do have a Chrome extension. So if I click open here in my Chrome extension, you can see I do have the ability to start a new recording. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. And then from there, I'm gonna click on menu. And then from there, I'll click on appliances, maybe washers and dryers. And maybe I want a, let's say a washer and dryer set. Okay, so that's what I click on. And then I'm just going to do a highlight right there for washer and dryer sets. And maybe I'll do another highlight right here to validate the number of elements that are coming back or the number of items. And then I could continue on. I could click add to cart and continue on from there, but I'm just going to streamline this a little bit. So I'm going to go back up to my recorder. I'm going to stop my recording. And you could see here, everything that I did was captured in here. And once again, there might need to be a little bit of cleanup. So it did see this check page contains washer dryer a couple of times. And a few other things, a few too many times. But as you can see, I could take this entire test case and add it directly to that Best Buy test case or a test suite that I just created. And now that's going to go jump in there and it's going to start running. So if I come back here and look at my test cases, we should see in a couple of seconds here, that should update. So we'll give that a second to complete that process. But let's see, hold on, refresh there. Okay, well, I'm just going to blame my network on that. That seems a little weird. But anyways, the other option you have is live mode. So live mode, this is once again a VM live mode instance here where now I can interact with the screen just like it's a live application. I do have a few different options here though. By default, it's set to generate the command and execute, which means if I click somewhere on screen, it's also going to perform that click. And I actually clicked by accident on that element. So I want to click on menu. So you can see it says click menu, it performs the action. And then down here, you can actually see the visual representation of that click right there, menu.
Nice.
And then now if I wanted to, once again, click on appliances, click on appliances. And as you can see, it refreshes very quickly. And then maybe at this point, I do want to look for a luxury kitchen appliance. So really everything that I'm performing here, it's just being replicated. And then I'm going to just do a couple more clicks here. So click luxury ranges. And then we'll just do this first, add to cart. Well, maybe we won't add it to the cart. We'll just highlight there. Oh, okay, so it didn't really like that click, but that's all right. So if I do add to cart, then you can see once again it clicked add to cart. And then our next page is here. And maybe at this point I want to click go to cart. So that didn't really like that one, but that's okay. I could easily manually change that if I wanted to, because I could still type things in here as well. So I
Okay.
could just say click, whoops, click cart, execute. Then it, once again, shows it in the screenshot. This visual that we're seeing here is a couple of seconds delayed, but as you can see, it did click it. And then we
Yes.
did get this pop-up here. So now here's that pop-up. And then, if I did want to interact with this pop-up, I could just say, click close. Once again, I don't always have to interact with the screen, but I can. That's the nice thing with live mode, is you have the ability to kind of do both. All right, so let's just say that's everything that I wanted to do. I would do finish the session and save. And then I get a visual representation of the entire test case. And then if I did, like, let's say I know I messed up on a step. At this point, I could clean that step up if I wanted to. So once again, this is just showing us what we have here. So like, for example, here where it clicked on that element that I didn't specifically mean to click on,
Yeah.
I could just delete that step because we don't need it. And probably that one too. So there's a nice clean test case, and then we could just go ahead and run it. And then down below, we are also keeping historical runs of all of this. So think of this as built-in version control as well. So every time you make a change to the test, it's going to be captured in here. Every run is also going to be stored in here too. So we keep, I think it's 7 years worth of data. So, in regards to any sort of, going back in time and looking at how things have changed, you could easily do that.
Correct.
Yeah, and once again, I really like kind of showing how things started with that version control. So, for example, if I go back to that the Best Buy test case there. Oops, my apologies, I clicked a little too fast there. All right, so inside my Best Buy test case, I could show you. Well, there was a question about the parameterization, so let me actually show you a test case that shows that, because it kind of helps answer the question here. So I have a test case that does a search for Sonos speakers. And what I've done here is it is data driven. So I'm basically running the same test case on 4 different bits of data. And what I'm doing is I'm basically setting a geolocation in my test case at the very beginning. When I set my geolocation, it's grabbing the coordinates that I've provided in this Excel spreadsheet or the CSV file that I've provided. And then from there, it's then going to go up to the store section, find another store, and then based on the coordinates I've given it, it's going to use those coordinates to basically type in the store location. So that's one of my parameters. So it says enter stored value city. So that's what that is. I probably shouldn't have done city, but either way. So it uses Texas, very, very broad city. And then when it does the search, Abilene happens to be the nearest store. And that is what I had set in my location data set. So that's a validation. So the red one is the action. So click, make that your store. But the check page contains stored value is the green box. So as you can see right there, we are now validating that response, and then we can continue on and perform all of our other actions as needed. But if I switch to, let's say, this one here for San Francisco, once again, we go to that same area in our test case. We're first in Lynchburg because that's where these are. But then when we type in San Francisco, click update, now we're at San Francisco. We make that my store. We validate that specific name of the store against my data set. So that shows the data-driven functionality that's available. And then the other thing I wanted to show in here was that version control. So I didn't create that test and it just worked. There were a few iterations that I had to go through. So with it, you can actually see here every test run. Once again, if all of my data sets were impacted or if they were all successful or what have you. And then if I go down to, like, let's say this one here, I can compare this to the current version. And then we will give you a visual representation of things that have changed, things that have been added. So you have a really nice, clean way of understanding what happened, plus the ability to roll back to this if it is something that you do want to roll back to.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So that is a lot of what I wanted to go over. I feel like I definitely missed a lot of the questions that came through, but obviously that's kind of
No,
what
no,
the
we'll
end of
take all these questions now, no problem. But
yeah.
I really like this live feature because this is a major challenge. Like, suppose I have a lengthy test of 100 steps and the
Hmm.
test is failing at 99. So
Yeah.
again, I have to rerun until I reach that point, then I will debug. Instead, if I have a live mode, I can just go
Yeah.
to that 99th step and do this.
Well, so I'm actually really glad that you mentioned specifically the term debug because we get that question often. Like, how do I debug something like this? Because it's just going to run the whole test case.
Yeah,
Well, there is a debug option right here. So debug will actually load in whatever your test case is into live mode. So then we can
nice.
run that test case to wherever it failed and then actually manipulate it from that live mode session. So we do have the ability to do a live debugging session, which is great.
Perfect.
Yeah. So I did see Lego Lovers asked for can we integrate with CI/CD? So yeah, I mentioned it earlier real quick, but yeah, there's a CI/CD integration tab here,
Yeah,
and this just has everything in there
yeah,
that you could just pre-populate.
yeah.
So
So
hopefully
there are a
that
couple
helps.
of other questions also.
Yeah.
So let me take all this one by one. So Lego lovers see integration with CI/CD. They already have a Bash script PowerShell. So irrespective which CI/CD tool you use, Jenkins, Azure, DevOps, TeamCity, Bamboo,
Yep.
because you can inject these Bash or PowerShell, and you can run however you want. Do you want to run after every change, or do you want to schedule a cron job? It's completely up to you.
Hmm.
But integration with different tools is very smooth here. Even if you want to integrate with Jira, you already have little, let's say, 1000 test cases. You can integrate with TestRigor, whether it's a Jira, TestRail, or any test management tool, and we can do that.
Yep. And yeah, defect management itself. So it doesn't necessarily do it itself. Like we do have an error section, so you can basically keep track of things that are happening. But to Makesh's point, we can also send this over to Jira and create a bug over in Jira or Azure DevOps. Um, so then, it can be tracked in your actual bug tracking system.
Okay.
Yeah. So I am not going to do that at this point, but all right.
Okay.
How is the maintenance handled, especially when the UI undergoes minor updates, such as buttons or fields shifting slightly? So yes, this is a great question. I did mention it earlier very quickly, so I really appreciate you asking again. Um, so it doesn't necessarily automatically detect the changes, but keeping in mind that it's really only looking for the specific text. So once again, if the word update is on the screen, TestRigor is going to work the same way a human does. And really, I should have started with that. TestRigor is really, in its simplest form, performing like a human emulator. Like that's what those AI agents really are. So it's going to be looking at the screen top to bottom, left to right, just like a human would read that page. So if update, if I tell it to click update and update appears 6 times on the page, it's going to find the first one and click on it. If I want it to click on a specific one, then I would tell it to click on the fourth one or click update to the right of something else. So when you specify something to the right of, below, above, because you can do locational references with TestRigor, that's kind of the only time where you might have to do additional manipulation. Because once again, if your button moves from the left of something to the right of something, that's going to impact TestRigor's ability to find it. However, if you never specified left of or right of, and you just said click this button, TestRigor's still going to click that button. So
Great.
yeah, so maintenance once again, very easy. Um, you know, and once again, even if there's major changes in the UI, we can handle those. It's just a matter of how specific was your test case written, and could we just lighten that up a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Amit, understand, like test trigger is not focusing on the locators part. It is focusing based on the human behavior in the text.
Hmm.
So if the text changed itself, like say from sign in to login, now it could be a bug as well, right? So in that cases, you need to also do a small changes, that in case the application is going through a UI changes, when it comes to functional changes, you need to see monitor it, because how test trigger is working based on the text. Now
Yep.
let's say text change. Now TestRigor don't know whether it's a bug or it's an enhancement, right? So you have to do a minor touch up. But as we discussed that in case you have not mentioned that click on this login button which is below this field, above this field, you have not given references, it can find. And again, in case if you want to do multiple actions like triple click, two times click, all this can be defined here.
Yeah. And also, just to add to that, it was great info there is, when we are taking and we're, um, you know what, actually, no, I don't even want to get sidetracked on that. Sorry.
No problem.
Yeah. Um, so this is a paid application. So yeah, TestRigor is not open source. Um,
But they have a freemium. In case if you want to explore, you can check out their free plan. Free plan have one user in parallel. But let's say if you want multiple sessions in parallel, multiple operating systems, and you want privacy private, because when it comes to free plan, you can visually see the test cases, right, through a generic public URL. But yes,
mm,
if you have a custom requirement, you want to talk about more about this, you can schedule a demo. I will be giving a link in the description of this live uh, YouTube live, where you can schedule a demo, customize a requirement if you have, understand whether it fits or not. And if you go with that link, you will be getting additional 15% off as well. But schedule a call to understand how it can help, how you can reduce the maintenance cost, because eventually manpower is also a big cost. So it's have a freemium plan. Just explore how it is matching as per the requirement, and based on the requirement, you can upgrade. There was one very interesting question by Nirmal. So
sorry. How does TestRigor differ from OpKey? Um, so we're not using a Selenium wrapper behind the hood. We are using a combination of different technologies, including some Selenium, but we're not relying on Selenium. So yeah, there's a bunch of technologies that are working behind the scenes. Um, so hopefully that helps answer
yeah,
that question.
yeah. So
Um,
Nirmal, many tools which is on top of the Selenium wrapper, but this is like as Bruno mentioned, it's a combination of multiple tools, the different AI technologies they're using. So in case if you want to have a demo, please schedule a call with them and see if you can uh, upgrade or maybe want to have a second opinion.
Yeah, and actually, just going back to the previous comment that you made about the sign in or versus a login. So once again, TestRigor is running that AI agent, so it is smart enough to understand that sign in and login mean the same thing.
Okay,
So that is actually built into that login process too. Like if the word login isn't there, it's going to look for sign in. So
nice,
it does have some variability in there. So
great.
hopefully that really helps as well. And then this next question here, so it won't notify us of any changes to the UI. So once again, we don't necessarily care, and sorry, I'm putting that in air quotes because we do care. But once again, TestRigor just wants to know if it can find that specific text. So if the button did move over a few pixels, once again, we don't care as long as we can still find it and click on it. And if the text of the button changed, then we would there would be a comment in the test case that said, login wasn't found, but we used sign in instead. It would say something like that. So once again,
Okay,
that would be the AI leveraging. Yeah.
okay. There was one more question related to bitmap testing.
Bitmap testing. Hmm.
Basically, color palettes. If you have to choose colors.
So we do support a variety of things, and when it comes down to certain attributes, we can reference multiple attributes here. So if doing desktop testing for web or mobile web, you can see all of the different attributes that we can leverage. So if what you're trying to validate is in one of these attributes, like a color, then we should be able to. Yeah. Let's see. So then another question here: does TestRigor have good manual or video tutorials to learn? Yes. I was going to say Mukesh put together a bunch of them. When I first started with TestRigor, I watched so many of Mukesh's videos. I, I feel like me and him already know each other just because of how many videos I watched.
Yes.
Um, so then let's see. My organization uses Tosca, and I execute almost 27,000 test cases in each release. I still have nightmares in maintain.
That's huge.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's actually a great example. So yeah, the test cases we could really just port those in. If you have those written in plain English, we could just put those in and create test cases based off them. So that's a lot of test cases. So I can imagine maintenance for
Yes.
that would be a nightmare. That is the main reason to go with something like TestRigor is just way less code-like things that you have to really go through with a fine tooth comb. Everything's going to be in plain English. Those reusable rules are really going to help with maintenance too, because once again, oftentimes many of the things that you're doing are just repeatable actions. So reusable rules. Yeah.
So Amit, I have recorded almost 12 to 13 videos on TestRigor. If you just search for Mukesh Otan TestRigor, or I will give you the link. We are coming with more videos like live mode, how we can do mobile automation, API automation, how we can use Gen AI with TestRigor. So a lot of almost 20 plus videos coming for TestRigor, but still I have 13 to 12 to 13 videos, which will give you a good start, how you can start.
Mhm.
And you can start, it's just like a web application. You create an account and you can start within few minutes.
Yep. And then just one last thing, we do also have our own certification. So this is a generative AI based certification. This will help you understand TestRigor, but also just help you understand generative AI. So this is also a really powerful thing just to get up to speed with things.
Right. So Amit, in case if you want, you can connect with TestRigor team, schedule a demo with them and have a detailed discussion if you want. But definitely give it a try, because if you're spending too much time on the maintenance, then we are missing the main part of the automation. Automation is actually meant to reduce the human effort, but if we are still spending a lot of time on the maintenance, then the ROI will not be that huge, right? So let me know. So guys, in the description of this video, or in the first comment of this video, you will find a link. Uh, Click on that link, create your account, create your first test with TestRigor, or schedule a demo with them if you have a custom requirement. And let me know if you have any doubts. Let me check, Bruno, one more minute if we missed any question or not. I guess we covered most of the question. And those who are watching this video live, please post your question in the comment. I will be scanning the comments and we will be replying later on. But yeah, we will be coming again next month with a new topic. And if you have further questions, let us know. Yeah. So those who joined late, uh, in case if you go through the link, which I will be giving the description, you will get additional 15% off. And those who are going with the freemium, please make sure you will get only one parallel and the test cases will be public. Yeah, so that's all about this webinar or the YouTube live. So thank you so much, Bruno.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, Sanana says TestRigor looks like one of the tools that companies start adopting that session. Thank you so much, Sanana.
Yeah, thank you. We feel the same way.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you so much, guys, for taking your 1 hour, and we would love to have this session again. And thank you, Bruno, once again for this amazing webinar. And
You're very welcome.
yeah,
Thank you, everybody.
thank you, everyone. See you soon. Bye bye. Take care, everyone.
Cheers.
Uh, Amit, regarding this pricing, you can check the pricing plan. Let me just share the link with you right away. 1 second. So they have a different pricing plan based on how many parallel sessions you want and how many systems you need. Just give me a link. Give me a minute. Let me send you the link right away. So I may check out the link. I guess it came into two parts. I will share the short link with you soon. So if you don't mind, you can ping me. I will share the separate link, or just go ahead and check the description of this video. Thank you so much, Shiva. Thank you so much. I hope you found it useful. Hi, Niraliben. Okay, so guys, we will have a separate Q&A. If you have other questions, which is generate questions related to automation, this was mainly for TestRigor, and those who have not explored any of the A agent tool or any automation tool which is codeless, definitely worth giving a try. You can also add in your resume, because most of the job description that you see in the market, right, you will find that you should have knowledge at least one of the AI based tool nowadays. So explore and see how it works, how you can leverage AI, whether you're doing manual testing, even if you're existing suite with thousand of test cases, slowly how you can adopt AI, right? Because AI will keep on evolving in the coming days, and tools will get more mature. So it makes sense to adopt, go as per the standard, go as per the market. Is browser stack? Yes. So Ajay, in the session we discussed, you can integrate with Lambda test, browser stack, sauce lab. You just need, obviously, since you are using this, you will be having the pro access. You can just provide the username and the access key, and you can also use the tunnel option. The moment you integrate, you will have the list of browsers, platform, the devices, and then instead of running on TestRigor platform, you will be running a test on, you will be using their farm, right? Depends on browser stack or sauce lab. Mini Mouse, wonderful session. Mukesh, please arrange more session like this where agent. Yes, yes, definitely. We will be having again, most probably next month, and we will take a different use case this time. Okay, as for free plan, we will have only one parallel execution with two browsers, public URL. Yes, Keshav, just check out their pricing once, because recently I've gone through and this is what I found. So see what is the current freemium plan they have and start. Yeah, so it's already late. Thank you so much once again for joining. In case if you want to educate others, please share this webinar. And those who want to start with TestRigor, I already have a playlist. I will be sharing that playlist also in the comment section. Start learning from that playlist. I will be coming up with new videos of TestRigor from next week. So thank you so much, and I will see you soon in the next live. Till then, bye bye. Take care.